Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Saturday edition on my YouTube channel. As you guys know, this is the day I go through my weekly preview. I recap the Thursday night game, share my takeaways from that matchup, give out my prospect encyclopedia player of Thursday night football, dive into the rest of the week six matchups, and I'm gonna go ahead and get you out of here. So why don't we just go ahead and dive into that Thursday night matchup? Bucks won 28-22. That score was a lot closer than what the actual game was. Bucks pretty much dominated that matchup. They were up 20-7 at one point, and then they just kind of stuttered on offense at times and never really closed out the game. They allowed the Eagles to somewhat make it a game, but then they were able to get the ball back, play clock control, and just walk away with an easy victory on Thursday Night Football. So let's just take away the fallout, starting with the Bucks side. Their injuries to their secondary continued that night. At some point in the first half, Richard Sherman left with a hamstring injury. Does sound like he's going to be out for at least 2 weeks. We will have to see how long he's out going forward. But he was signed to help replace Carlton Davis and Sean Murphy Bunting while they work their way back from injuries. Now he's going to be out, so they're basically down to Jamel Dean and a group of basically fourth, fifth stringers, practice squad players. So we'll have to see how it goes going forward and how their defense can adjust going forward. But at the end of the day, they're at the top of their division. They're likely going to win that division. So they just got to hope they can get healthy as the season goes along and nobody else gets hurt. And they can just be gearing up for the playoffs as we get closer to the second half of the schedule. On the Eagles side of things, after getting their big win over the Panthers last week, they lose this week to the Bucks. Now it did come out right before the game, like there was Jay Glazer reported that, hey, it looks like at some point in the next week they're going to trade Dallas Goedert or Zach Ertz. It never really made sense for Dallas Goedert to trade him. They need to see what they have in him. So as we all know by now, they did trade Zach Ertz to the Cardinals yesterday for Tay Gowan and a 2022 fifth-round pick. There was a video that came out after the game where Zach Ertz was basically kind of crying as he was walking to the locker room. So I think he kind of knew during the game that he was already going to be a member of the Cardinals, or at least he knew he was going to be traded over the weekend. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out for the Cardinals. Now, there are people that are wondering, could Zach play for the Cardinals this Sunday? No, the NFL only allows players to play in one game per week. So he'll make his debut for the Cardinals in week 7. Now, it did come out that the Cardinals were going to let him just come in next week, but he already flew to Arizona. It sounds like he's going to be on the plane to Cleveland today. He wants to review the playbook and start to get knowing that offense. But as far as the Eagles, yeah, I mean, this is what I said what the Eagles were going to be in my preseason preview. Like, they're going to be competitive here and there in games, but they just don't have they lack the overall talent. They've already been decimated with injuries at like the offensive line specifically. So going forward, they're going to probably be a competitive team, but they just lack the talent to be like a playoff caliber team. So that's how I view them going forward. And then to go ahead and put a bow on the Thursday night football game, my prospect encyclopedia player of Thursday night football was really hard to find this week, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be completely honest. If you guys remember the first one of the year, I normally like to give it to the winning team's player, but with the Bucks section, like they're such a top-heavy team, it's hard to find a player on my list that I wrote the Bucks section. I would love to talk about the work I did, right? But like a guy like Joe Tryon had a quiet night. Same thing with like Mike Edwards. He had a quiet night. So like everybody on the list for the Bucks had a quiet night. And honestly, everybody on the Eagles list had a quiet night. Like I couldn't just pick Jalen Hurts just to pick him because he was in the stat column, right? And then Devontae Smith had a quiet night. My bad on him for being a start, by the way. I thought him and Jalen would be able to take advantage of that banged up secondary. And he wasn't even the leading wide receiver. So let's just go ahead and reveal it. I decided to go with the leading wide receiver from the Eagles on Thursday night, which was Quez Watkins. He had the 3 receptions for the 44 yards. And if I remember right, I think he caught that 2-point conversion at the end of the game when the Eagles were attempting to make their comeback. So I'm going with Quez Watkins. He's been a nice little surprise. He had a really good, strong preseason. He's been able to be a contributor this year. Obviously, they're with him kind of being more of a their third, fourth wide receiver. He doesn't get as much action as he would probably like, but I think like he should be at least be able to compete with like Jalen Rager for snaps, and maybe it's going to be him and Devontae Smith going forward. We'll have to see. Again, it's going to be Quez Watkins this week. He doesn't have the greatest stat line, but he was the leading wide receiver there for the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. And if you want to check out the rest of the reports to go with Quez and all the other reports in the Prospect Encyclopedia, just go to prospectencyclopedia.com to order that. You get the entire PDF for $15. The Buck section's for free if you want a preview of it. Or you can even, if you're an Eagles fan, you can always get the Eagles section just for $1. So just go to prospectencyclopedia.com and check that out. So why don't I just go ahead and dive into the rest of the Week 6 matchups. And for whatever reason, my script decided it was going to skip down to 2 pages. But yeah, I should already know this. We got the London game tomorrow morning. So yes, my degenerate self will be waking up for the Dolphins and Jaguars game. That's how you know you love the NFL, when you're going to wake up early to watch the Dolphins and Jaguars, to say the least. But yeah, let's take a look at the injury reports really quick. On the Dolphins side, these 2 players are out. Xavier Howard with a shoulder and groin, and Devontae Parker with a shoulder and hamstring. And then these 4 players are questionable. Jacoby Brissett with a hamstring, Byron Jones with an Achilles, Adam Shaheen with a knee, and then Preston Williams with a groin. And then on the Jaguar side, Rashad Coward is out with an ankle, Miles Jack is out with a back, and then these 2 players are questionable, Tyson Campbell with a toe, and Roy Robertson Harris with an ankle. So yeah, with this game, I really don't. Oh yeah, and just go ahead and mention this too. It came out this morning that Tua Tagovailoa has been activated, so he will be the starting quarterback in this matchup. So yeah, why don't I just start with the the Dolphins offense? So it's gonna be interesting to see how Tua looks coming off his injury. Obviously, he was kind of looking somewhat questionable prior to the injury, just not making. It just seems like he has not taken that next step. I think he's kind of still going through his rookie pains, because he hasn't got to that 16, 17 game mark quite yet as a starter, and then he's just been dealing with injuries. So it'll be interesting to see how he's going to look tomorrow against this Jaguars defense, which is definitely suspect to giving up passing yards. So can him and maybe Jalen Waddle start to show that connection that they had once back at Alabama? I think that's where they're going to have to try to work against this defense, especially the fact that Devontae Parker's out. He's going to have to try to use his trusty target of Mike Gesicki. And we'll have to see how they can maybe use Myles Gaskin, who is coming off his best game from last year. And like I mentioned, the Jaguars defense, there's nothing to run home about, but that Dolphins offensive line is not that great. So can a guy like Josh Allen, maybe Chase on, can those 2 young edge rushers come off the edge and maybe blow up Tua for a couple fumbles at some point? I think the Dolphins should be able to march up and down the field at times, but I think they're going to need to stall at times because this offense is a complete work in progress. It's still somewhat clunky, and then you're throwing in a quarterback that was not only kind of having somewhat struggles prior to his injury, but he's coming off a 3-week absence since the last time he played. And then you switch sides of the ball, like the Jaguars, they've been steadily improving on the offensive side of the ball. You're seeing James Robinson put together back-to-back performances. You're seeing the game slow down for Trevor Lawrence. And I think he's going to have a pretty solid outing tomorrow morning in London. You look at Xavier Howard is out. Byron Jones is questionable with an Achilles injury. So even if he plays, he's less than 100% with his Achilles. Like, listen, I'm not an NFL cornerback, but I would imagine if my Achilles is less than 100%, I'm not going to have that much to like click and close on any balls, or like if I'm dealing with like I don't know, Laviska Shenault, like that type of twitchiness in open space is going to be hard to deal with, right? So I think we can see a good performance out of this Jaguars passing attack. I think we could see Trevor Lawrence and Marvin Jones and Laviska taking advantage of this situation with both their cornerbacks basically being down. And I think they could put together a good game. And if you guys were listening, please go back to listen to both my fantasy shows from Tuesday and Wednesday if you haven't done that yet. I mentioned the fact that the Jaguars, because they play in London every year, and I know this is Urban Meyer's first trip to London, but the organization itself understands like how to handle these London games. So they typically play well in London. So I think their Jaguars are going to put together a good performance. I think this is going to be a good game. I know the matchup, I know the records don't like scream like, oh man, I can't, like I was saying at the beginning of this, we're waking up to watch this game. But I don't know, I have a weird feeling that this is going to be a good back and forth battle between both teams. And you know what? I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to get their first win of the season. I do. I just that's just because it's in London. This team has to win a game at some point. The Dolphins have been far less than impressive this season. So I think the Jaguars find a way to win tomorrow morning. I say they win like a 31-27 win for Jacksonville against the Dolphins. So I'm going to go ahead and move into these 1 p.m. games. We do got the Minnesota Vikings traveling out to Carolina to face the Panthers. Taking a look at the injury report for the Vikings, these two players are out. Ben Ellefson with a knee, and then Michael Pierce with an elbow. And then on the Panthers side, these 3 players are out. Christian McCaffrey with his hamstring, Shaq Thompson with his foot, and Kamal Martin with a concussion. And then these 2 players are questionable. C.J. Henderson with a shoulder, and Deontay Brown with a knee. So let's see. Might as well start with the Panthers offense here. Obviously with Christian McCaffrey being out, that's a huge blow to the offense. This was supposed to be the week we are going to see Christian McCaffrey, and then he must have had a setback in practice this week. So that's going to put all the pressure on Sam Darnold, who is coming off his worst game as a Panther against the Eagles last week, where he threw at least 2 interceptions to Darius Slay. I think he threw 3 total, if I'm remembering right. So they're starting to come to questions again, like about Sam Darnold that I've been trying to preach. Like he's not fully recovered his career quite yet, right? So can they take advantage of this Vikings defense, which hasn't been that great this year, especially in that secondary? So can DJ Moore go off? Can Robbie Anderson finally kind of go off with Sam Darnold, and how is this rushing attack going to look with just Chuba Hubbard against the Vikings defensive front, which I think is a lot better this year. So I think they should be able to somewhat limit the rushing attack of the Panthers offense and force Sam Darnold to beat them. And I think if you're forcing Sam Darnold to beat you, as we saw last week, he's going to turn the ball over at some point. So I could see maybe Patrick Peterson get an interception, maybe Cameron Dantzler or Harrison Smith. I think it's going to be an up and down day for the Panthers offense. I do think they can put together about, roughly, I say about 3 to 4 touchdown drives I could see happening, but I think there's going to be those drives where they either stall or the Vikings defense can force a turnover at some point. And then you flip sides of the ball with that Vikings offense, they're just as inconsistent, right? We haven't really seen much of a rushing attack this year, but Dalvin Cook is going to be fully healthy for this matchup, but he's going against a pretty stout rushing defense from Carolina. So this might be a Kirk Cousins type of blow-up performance. That Panthers secondary, I like Jeremy Chin, but they already are missing their J.C. Horn. Stephon Gilmore can't make his debut until after this week, and then C.J. Henderson is questionable with a shoulder injury. So I think we could see a good game out of Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. I think they can take advantage of that situation, and as long as they can somewhat get Cook going on the ground, that can open up things for the play action, and that's where Kirk Cousins is at his best, and he can take those deep shots to a guy like Justin Jefferson. So I think they're going to be able to attack him in the secondary, attack him deep, and they're going to be able to move the ball and be in positions to score more times than not tomorrow. So I think the Vikings are the better team in this matchup. I think they find a way to win on the road. I think just because this is a road game, it's going to be a close matchup. It's going to come down to the fourth quarter, but I think the Vikings find a way to close it out. I think they win I'll say a 24-21 win for Minnesota. And then we got this is a really great matchup to watch. I'm gonna be watching my Colts game closer. I'll have to rewatch the whole thing, but I'll definitely be keeping my eye on my Red Zone channel anytime these two teams pop up. But we got the Chargers traveling out to Baltimore. Let's knock out the injury reports really quick for LA. These 3 players are questionable. Drew Tranquill with a chest. Nasir Adderley with a hip, and Mike Williams with a knee. And then on the Ravens side, Sammy Watkins is out with his thigh. And then these 3 players are questionable. Deshaun Elliott with a quad, Geno Stone with a thigh, and Alejandro Villanueva with a knee. Now, this is pretty interesting because we actually have both LA teams. I'm going to talk about the other one here after this game. Both LA teams are playing at the 1 o'clock slot. If anybody remembers earlier in this year, I have mentioned this. I have mentioned this every single year in my preview videos. West Coast teams typically struggle to win games at the 1 o'clock slot time. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this Chargers team comes out in the first half against the Ravens. Obviously, the Ravens are coming off that emotional miracle comeback against my Colts on Monday night, but if there's anything they could do, they could ride that momentum into this first half against this Chargers team, who might come off sluggish because of the time zone difference. It'll be interesting to see if it doesn't play a factor into this great matchup. But I mean, if you kind of take that out of the picture, starting with the Baltimore's offense, Lamar Jackson is just a special guy right now. Like, he is proven to improve as a passer this year. He could put the team on his back in the fourth quarter and win a game. And he's going against this Chargers defense, which has been, I want to say great this year, but they have been very solid against the pass. And that's kind of where the Ravens have leaned towards this year. And I think the Ravens could go back what has worked for them in the last 2 to 3 seasons and attack this weak rushing defense of the Chargers. So I think we're going to see more of a Lamar game on the ground. I think we are going to see maybe a Tyson Williams. Maybe they get Le'Veon off the practice squad this week, or maybe they kind of get Murray involved. I think we're going to see a really good, strong rushing attack, and I think that's where we're going to see out of this matchup. And Baltimore is going to be able to move the ball up and down the field. Their first-round pick, Rashad Bateman, was activated off IR, I believe, yesterday. So we're going to see his debut and see how he can work opposite of Marquise Brown. And it's going to be very interesting to see if they lean back towards a rushing attack because of how the Chargers defense has been able to have been struggling to defend the run this year. But I think the Ravens should be able to move the ball against the Chargers defense. Now, flipping sides of the ball, the Ravens defense, their defensive front has been very good. But as we saw last week, the back end of the group is suspect to passing yards. I mean, Carson Wentz just threw for 400 yards against them last week, and that was in all 4 quarters. He didn't get a chance to touch the ball in that overtime. So you got Justin Herbert, who's just been dicing up defenses this year. So I think he can put together a strong performance. I think Mike Williams plays. We'll have to see. So he's going to need Keenan Allen to step up. He needs a guy like Jared Cook to step up in this matchup. But I think he should be able to move the ball at times against this defense. But can their offensive line give him enough time? Is Odafe Oweo, the rookie edge rusher for the how's he going to match up against Rashawn Slater? Rashawn Slater is basically an offensive rookie of the year right now with his play at the left tackle spot. But I think they're going to be able to move the ball. Now, like I said, I can see this offense maybe struggling, coming out slow because of the time difference. But I think this is going to be I think I can see this being like a Ravens dominate first half, Chargers storm back in the second half and make this a game. It's going to come down to who has the ball in the fourth quarter. I could see this being like a who can win the turnover type of battle matchup. Man, I'm having a tough time picking this game because, man, like the Ravens are just, they got something special going on despite all the injuries that have happened to that roster. But then you got the Chargers, who have just been playing up to their potential so far this year. I want to pick the Ravens, but I think Justin Herbert finds a way to get it done in the fourth quarter. I think he has the ball last. He finds a way to get it into the field goal range. They kick a field goal to win, let's say a 27-24 win for the Chargers over the Ravens. Now, moving on, we got the Rams also traveling out to the East Coast. They're going up to New York to face the Giants. The Rams are fully healthy. They have nobody on the injury report, so yeah, I can already pretty much tell you where I'm going to lean in this matchup. And then taking a look at the Giants, Saquon Barkley is out with his ankle, and Kenny Golladay is out with his knee. These 4 players are questionable. Andrew Thomas with a foot, Ben Bredesen with a hand, Darius Slayton with a hamstring, and Kadarius Toney is questionable with his ankle. And then, yeah, as far as this matchup, like the Rams are fully healthy, so I'm going to go ahead and get into their offense. Their offense is coming, they're coming off of a week and a half break because the last time we saw them was that Thursday night win over the Seahawks. And they're going against this Giants defense, which they're like good against the run, but like that secondary has really not played up to my expectations. I thought the secondary could be a lot better than what it has been. So I think Matthew Stafford and Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, I think they're going to be able to attack this secondary. I think they're going to be able to kind of get the ground game going somewhat with a mixture of Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel. That'll open up the play action. Then maybe they can get a deep shot to Deshaun Jackson here and there. But I think they're just going to be able to move the ball. I can see them stalling at times and having to settle for field goal. But I think they're going to be able to cross the 50 at least more on most of their drives tomorrow. And they're going to be in that scoring position where they're going to be able to put up the points and just take what's given to them and probably walk away with an easy win. And then you flip sides of the ball to the Giants side. Looks like just Daniel Jones completely grew a buck. I was about to call him David Jones. Daniel Jones, he's going to be playing, but there's no Saquon Barkley. There's no Kenny Galladay. We'll have to see if Andrew Thomas can play. He's stepped up his level of play in his year two for that offensive line. But if he's not able to go, that means guys like Aaron Donald and like Leonard Floyd are going to be able to take advantage of this situation and be able to get after Daniel Jones. And then Darius Slayton and Kadarius Toney, Kadarius Toney should be playing. I'm not sure where things stand on Darius Slayton. But even if he plays, you got both of your other wide receivers are going to be less than 100%. And it does look like, drew a blank on his name. Sterling Shepard. He's good to go. He's not even he doesn't have a final injury designation. So, man, I can see them at times moving, and I think they could put together about 2 to 3 touchdown drives. But man, if Andrew Thomas doesn't play, I think they're going to be able to get after Daniel Jones. And whenever Daniel Jones gets that early pressure, that's when he can get hit. I could definitely see an Aaron Donald. You know how Aaron Donald sometimes grabs the quarterback and kind of flings them? I can kind of see that happening and the ball coming out, and then the Rams scooping it up for a score. I can see an interception happening at some point. I think the Giants, like I said, I think the Giants offense is going to put together a couple touchdown drives, but I think there's going to be at least 2 to 3 turnovers by the Giants offense. I think the Rams do handle business against this Giants team. I think they win like a 20, because I'll go ahead and buy into my West Coast slow start time. So maybe they don't blow them out of the water. They win let's say a 24-17 win for the Rams tomorrow afternoon. And then we got the Houston Texans traveling up to Indianapolis to face the Colts. Taking a look at the Texans injury report, Laramie Tunsil, their starting left tackle, is going to be out with a thumb injury. I think he should be getting placed on IR. I know they already said he's basically going to be missing at least a minimum of 4 weeks. And then these 4 players are questionable. Justin Britt with his knee, Danny Amendola with a thigh, Rex Burkhead with a hip and knee, and then Desmond King with his hip injury. And then taking a look at the Colts injury report, these following 5 players are out. Rodrigo Blankenship with a hip, Andrew Sendejo with a concussion, Braden Smith with a foot and thumb, Kimiko Torre with a groin, Jordan Wilkins, he's non-injury related. He's got an illness or something. It's kind of a weird situation. I'm not sure what's going on. And then Xavier Woods is questionable with his concussion. So yeah, as far as this matchup, obviously the Colts are coming off that brutal collapse in the fourth quarter. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this team responds. This team is either going to shake off that loss and take out all their frustrations on this Houston Texans team and completely dominate their division rival, or they're going to let that collapse affect their mindset and question their ability as a team, and they're going to let this team either hang into a close game or I guess you can't really call it an upset when both teams have 1 win, but obviously the Colts are heavily favored when you look at the odds tomorrow, so it would technically be an upset if the Texans do indeed can pull it off in Indianapolis. But I think if you look at the Colts offense, they have like last week showed some pretty impressive things with how Carson Wentz was able to have one of his best games in his career. Jonathan Taylor is starting to get things going, and now it's not official, but I totally expect at some point today T.Y. Hilton should be getting activated off the IR. T.Y. Hilton has a very, 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 very strong history of lighting up the Houston Texans. And he is such a big leader on this Colts team. If he's going to be out on the field tomorrow, man, that's going to rejuvenate the Colts entire team's mindset, and I think they're going to come out hot. I think that offense is going to be able to move the ball pretty easily against the Texans offense, against that Texans defense. I could see that offense scoring 3 to 4 touchdowns tomorrow afternoon. And then you flip sides of the ball. I mean, Davis Mills, you got to give him credit. He had probably, he definitely. I mean, I can't think of another rookie quarterback that has played like he did against the Bill Belichick defense. Now, one thing I have pointed out, I'm not sure if anybody else is buying into it. The Texas general manager, Nick Caserio, was basically Bill Belichick's right-hand man for, I forget how long, but for a very long time. He would help put together game plans. He would help. He's basically was on Bill Belichick's side. So if there was anybody that could help his offense prepare for a Bill Belichick defense, it would be Nick Caserio. So give credit to Davis Mills, but maybe they had a good game plan on how to attack that Patriots defense. So it will be interesting to see how Davis Mills performs. The Colts defense has been suspect this year against quarterbacks. They have allowed quarterbacks to pick them apart. If they allow Davis Mills to pick them apart, there's going to be a lot of questions about that defense going forward. But like I mentioned, Laramie Tunsil's out. Their right tackle has already been placed on IR, so they're playing with backup left. They're playing with backup tackle situation. So you're going to see it on my Colts Wire prediction that I put out this morning that my buddy, our managing editor, Kevin, will be publishing at some point today. I think Kwity Paye has his breakout performance as a rookie, and he gets a lot of pressure on Davis Mills, which ends up in sacks, which ends up in turnovers. I do think the Colts should handle their business. They win like a 31-17 type of win for the Colts. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next matchup. We do got the Chiefs traveling out to Washington to face the football team. As far as the injury reports, starting on the Chiefs side, these 3 players are out. Shavarius Ward with a quad, Blake Bell with a back, Chris Jones with a wrist, and these 3 players are questionable. Anthony Hitchens with a knee, Tyreek Hill with a quad, and Joe Thuney with his hand injury. And then taking a look at the football team's injury report, these 4 players are out. Sam Cosmi with an ankle, Jared Norris with a shoulder, Curtis Samuel with a groin, and Cam Sims with a hamstring. These 4 players are questionable. Antonio Gibson with a shin, Diami Brown with a knee, Sammy Reyes with a back, and then Terry McLaurin did not practice yesterday, so he's questionable with a hamstring, but based on the report I read last night, it sounds like he should be playing, but do definitely monitor that if you're a manager of him in fantasy football. So, yeah, so this Chiefs team, obviously, they're sitting at 2-3. This is not the Chiefs team we have once known. That defense is very bad, and that offense has had, I want to say struggles, just like more of a lack of consistency this year, because it seems like defenses have been able to mix things up and figure out a way to defend them and somewhat keep them in check. But I definitely expect this Chiefs team at some point to bounce back, and this is kind of setting up for a good matchup. This definitely seems like a get right type of matchup for them. That Chiefs offense is going against a defense that, yeah, they still got the talent on the defensive front, but their back end has really struggled this year. I know Hill is questionable, but it sounds like he should be able to go. So I could see Tyreek Hill going off. I could see Travis Kelce going off. I think this could be a classic Patrick Mahomes 4 to 5 touchdown performance. I could see both Kelce and Hill having over 100 yards and a touchdown or 2 each. And this offense just having a great day, and I could see at the end of tomorrow, people are gonna be like, "Oh, are the Chiefs offense back? Are we time to start taking them serious?" You know how sometimes the media likes to flip flop on teams. So I can see that happening, and I think we're gonna see a good game out of the Chiefs offense. And then as far as the football team, I thought they would be able to take advantage of this Chiefs defense being so banged up, but then it's like Sam Cosmi, the rookie tackle, who's been pretty solid as a rookie, he's out. So how are they going to be able to protect Taylor Heineke? And then look at Curtis Samuel's out. Cam Sims is out. Gibson will play. He's been playing on his shin injury, but he's still questionable. Diami Brown's questionable. And then Terry McLaurin's questionable. So you got so many guys that are skill position players questionable. So I think that's going to lead a lot of more inconsistency. I do think they're going to be able to move the ball because this Chiefs defense has been outright bad this year. But I just wonder if they're going to be able to be consistent where they can make it a game. I just think the Chiefs are going to jump out big on them, and then the Washington's going to be playing catch up for the majority of the game. I think the Chiefs handle their business. I think they win like a 35-24 win. tomorrow. And then moving on to the next game, we got the Green Bay Packers traveling down to Chicago to face the Bears. Let's take a look at the injury reports really quick. As far as the Packers, Kevin King is out with his shoulder injury. Dennis Kelly is doubtful with his back injury. Elton Jenkins is questionable with his ankle injury. I think he's going to finally make his return to the lineup. And then Malik Taylor is questionable with an illness. And then taking a look at the Bears are actually tied with Cleveland for the most players on the final injury report. Outside of the injury report, Damian Williams was placed on the reserve COVID list, and I don't think he's going to play. I've not heard anything promising as far as that if he's been starting to test negative since he originally tested positive. And then taking a look at the injury reports itself, these two players are out. JP Holtz with a quad injury, and then Caleb Johnson with a knee injury. And then these number of players are questionable. Akeem Hicks with a groin, Khalil Mack with a foot, Allen Robinson with an ankle, Xavier Crawford with a back, Duke Shelley with an ankle, Joe Aya, it's a kid, I always mess up his last name, guys, Joe Aya Bunui with his hamstring, Jakeem Grant with a groin, Ryan Nall with an ankle, Artie Burns with a foot, and then Eddie Jackson with a foot. So yeah, you can already tell who I'm gonna pick based off the injury reports. But so yeah, let's just start with the Bears offense. I mean, yeah, Justin Fields got his big win last week against the Raiders, but they're not really throwing for a lot of yards. They definitely kind of took advantage of getting up early, and they leaned on Damian Williams and Khalil Herbert to kind of rush out the clock. But I don't think you're going to be able to do that against the Packers offense and defense. So I think this is going to be a game where this Bears offense, if the Bears want to win this game, they had to have a outright great performance by the entire unit. They would need a breakout game by Justin Fields. He can't be throwing for around 200 yards. He's going to have to get, I wouldn't say 300 yards passing, but he's going to have a mixture of 200 plus yards passing and at least probably 50 to 60 plus yards on the ground. They can't afford to turn the ball over. They're going to have to play efficient football, and they're going to have to not only play efficient football, but they're going to have to play clock control, keep Aaron Rodgers on the sideline, and then they also have to finish drives with touchdowns. If they're unable to do that, if they're struggling at times, if there's turnovers, if they're punting more times than not, this is just going to be an ugly loss for the Chicago Bears. I just believe that. And then you flip sides of the ball. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is just continuing to make impressive throws after impressive throws. They barely squeezed out that win against the Bengals last week, but that Bengals team's a good team, like I've been trying to tell people back in the summer, but that's a different story for a different day. But yeah, so I just think the Packers, now they are going against this Bears defense, which they're very good up front, but Akeem Hicks and Mack are questionable. They'll play, but they're going to still be less than 100%. And then so I could definitely see maybe if they can see, I can't even say that they make them a one-dimensional team by stopping the run. Then you got Aaron Rodgers just dicing you up, right? So I don't know, I could see this being a low rushing attack day between Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, but then I can just see Devontae Adams going off, and then whoever wants to step up, whether it's Randall Cobb, whether it's Allen Lazard, Big Bob Tonyan. I just see the Packers offense figuring out a way to move the ball against this Bears defense, and I think they're going to be able to put themselves in scoring position more times than not. Now, I do think this Bears defense will at times make the Packers offense either punt or settle for a field goal. It's just that I completely trust the Packers offense 100 times more than I trust the Bears offense right now. So I see at least 2 to 3 touchdowns out of the Packers offense, while I see the Bears offense kind of struggling. I think the Packers are going to win say a 24 to 20. I don't think it's going to be. Do I think it's going to be that close? It is a divisional game. Let's go with a 27 to 21 win for the Packers tomorrow. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next game. This will be the last 1 p.m. game We got the Bengals traveling up to Detroit to face the Lions. As far as the Bengals injury report, Deontay Smith is out with his knee injury. These three players are questionable. Mike Thomas with an ankle, Jackson Carman with a non-injury related injury, and then Joe Mixon's questionable with his ankle, but it sounds like he's good to go. And then these four players are questionable for the Lions: Trey Flowers with a knee, TJ Hawkinson with a knee, DeAndre Swift with a groin, and then Jamal Williams with a hip and illness. Yeah, so this matchup, you got the Lions who are, every time that you think they're going to finally get their first win, the other team pulls off a miracle and gets a long field goal. What's the stat? I think they are the first team in NFL history to lose on the final seconds of a game on two different 50-plus yard field goals. That's very brutal for the Lions, and that makes them wonder if they can figure out a way if they're going to be able to win a game this year. I think they will. I like that. I like how competitive they are underneath Dan Campbell. It just seems like their lack of talent, it really shows up at times throughout the season. Starting with their offense. It is what it is, right? Like Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift, they're really good backs. They're going to get the job done. They need to figure out a way to get TJ Hawkinson open. I know teams are kind of focusing their coverage on them because the Lions have nothing you can really respect in their wide receiver room. So it's just an offense that, at times they're going to be able to put together touchdown drives, but then at times Jared Goff is going to throw an interception or fumble the ball like he has basically every week this week. And that Bengals defense, they're solid. They have a good, solid defensive front. I think they're going to be able to limit the rushing attack of the Lions, and they're going to force Jared Goff to beat them. So unless Jared Goff has one of his best games in the last couple of years, I think it's going to be an up and down day for the Lions, and they're going to, they're going to stall at times. They're going to turn over the ball at times, but they're going to at least put probably two touchdown drives together. And then you flip sides of the ball, Joe Burrow and that offense, I think they're going to be able to take advantage of this Lions secondary, which is very weak right now. I think Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd are all going to have 3 great days. I can see each of them getting at the 60 to 70 plus yard mark. One of them going over 100 yards. One of them getting a couple of touchdowns. And then also too, that Lions defense has struggled just in all facets of the game because they just lack talent outside of, I would say, their defensive front. But then their defensive front has been decimated with injuries this year. So I think Joe Mixon's going to have a great game on the ground, and then they're going to work in their wide receivers off of play action, and then Joe Burrow, I think, is going to help put together at least a 3 to 4 touchdown drive day on the game. So I do think the Bengals are going to handle their business up in Detroit, get things back on track after that that loss to the Packers last week, and they win I'll say the Bengals won like a 28-17 win over the Lions. And then moving on to the next matchup. The matchup, I have switched my pick on who I was going to pick to win this game like 5 times this week because of either injury reports or the report that came out last night. We got and these are the 4 p.m. games, if in case I forgot to say that, sorry. I think I did now that I'm saying it. It sounds like I did say it twice, didn't I, guys? We got the Cardinals traveling up to Cleveland to face the Browns. So this matchup has so many factors between COVID list and injury reports. So let's start with the Cardinals. So last night it came out that head coach Cliff Kingsbury and general manager Steve Keim and their quarterback coach Cam Turner tested positive for COVID-19. So they are out of this matchup. If you guys remember, he didn't test positive. Sean Payton ended up coaching the game, but the Saints, a couple this week 2 or 3 when they played the Panthers, they were out 9 coaches on the staff, and they ended up getting blown out by the Panthers. So I'm just saying, when you have your coaches out, that's going to have a somewhat effect on this game, especially with Cliff Kingsbury, because he is so hands-on with the offense, and you're going to wonder how that offense is going to be able to work, because he's calling the plays, right? He's developing the game plan. So I could see this offense kind of having not completely struggling, because sometimes talent can get the job done. But, Cliff Kingsbury's mind, his chemistry with the offense, reading what's going on in the game, is going to be missing tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting to see how that impacts. Now, Zach Allen, their defensive lineman, it came out last night that he also tested positive, so he's out. And then earlier this week, Chandler Jones, their star edge rusher, tested positive, and he's on the reserve COVID list. And I have not heard anything about him testing negative recently, so I think he's going to be out tomorrow. So that's just the COVID list that's going to impact the Cardinals tomorrow afternoon. And then Rodney Hudson, their stud center, he's out with a ribs and shoulder. Tanner Vajelo is out with a hand injury. And then these players are questionable. Jordan Hicks with a toe, Byron Murphy with the ribs, Marco Wilson with the ribs, Kelvin Beachum with the ribs, and Chase Edmonds with a shoulder injury. And then you look at the Browns, like I mentioned when I was talking about the Bears, the Browns are tied with the most players on the final injury report. So they have their issues as well, which this is like when this came out yesterday, Nick Chubb, he's out with a calf injury. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to pick the Cardinals. And then last night's news came out and you guys are kind of already getting a little spoiler alert of who I'm kind of leaning towards right now. Nick Chubb is out with a calf, like I mentioned. Malcolm Smith is also out with his abdomen, and these number of players are questionable. Jadeveon Clowney with an elbow and knee, Jack Conklin with a knee, Myles Garrett with a knee and ankle, AJ Green with a shoulder and knee, Kareem Hunt with a wrist and knee. Now it sounds like Kareem Hunt should be good to go. It sounds like they're going to lean on Kareem Hunt in this matchup. Tack McKinley with an ankle and knee. Greg Newsome with a calf, J.C. Treader with a knee, Denzel Ward with a knee, and then Jedrick Wills Jr. With his ankle injury. So, yeah, so like this is really kind of tough because like it's going to be very interesting to see how these teams perform. Starting with the Cardinals, yeah. So like I think their offense should be able to move the ball. I just wonder if like the right play calls are going to be able to come in, like who's going to be calling the calls. I mean, obviously they have an offensive coordinator, but how much influence that is lost, like I mentioned, from Kingsbury. So man, I can see this offense stalling at times. Maybe the right calls aren't coming in that they would usually get in. So that's where my concerns are with the Cardinals offense. But I still think with how many injuries the Browns are dealing to their defense right now, like I think some of those guys play, but they're going to be less than 100%. So I think they're going to be able to put together 2 to 3 touchdown drives, but it's going to be very interesting to see if the loss of Rodney Hudson, their center, who has been a game changer for that offensive line, how that impacts their performance. So I think there's going to be drives where they stall, they have to settle for field goals, or they're punting tomorrow. And then you take a flip on the other side with the Browns offense. Like obviously missing Nick Chubb is going to be huge, but when you got Kareem Hunt, who has starting talent ability, you can kind of supplement his loss with him. So I think the Browns offense are going to be able to move the ball still on the ground. Now they have to figure out a way to get Odell Beckham involved. Byron Murphy probably will play, but like their secondary between Byron Murphy and Marco Wilson, they're both questionable. So even if they play, they're less than 100%. So this needs to be an Odell breakout game if they want to win this game. He has to see at least 7+ targets. You had to get him involved early. You had to build up his confidence early. And Baker just has to also build up his confidence early. So I would like to see a good mixture of Kareem Hunt, a good mixture of the play action, and a good mixture of getting Odell involved early. And I think that's how they can move the ball against this Cardinals defense. I think this is going to be a pretty close game. I'm kind of thinking this is not going to be as many points scored as I originally thought at the beginning of the week because of Cliff Kingsbury being out, because of Nick Chubb not being involved in this matchup. I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter, who can have the ball last, maybe who can force a key turnover in the fourth quarter. Man, I was dead set on picking the Cardinals yesterday during the afternoon. And then that Cliff Kingsbury news completely changed my mind. I'm going to pick the Browns to win this game, give the Cardinals their first loss of the year. I think the Browns find a way to win in the fourth quarter. They win like a 24-21 win over the Cardinals. And then I'm going to move on to this next matchup. We got the Cowboys traveling up to New England to face the Patriots. Starting with the Cowboys injury report, Dorrance Armstrong is out with an ankle injury. These these players are questionable. Trayvon Diggs with his ankle injury, it sounds like he's a game time decision. Ezekiel Elliott with the ribs, Randy Gregory with a knee, DeMonte Casey with a hip, Tyron Smith with a neck, and then Donovan Wilson with his groin injury. And then these players are out for the Patriots. Shaq Mason with an abdomen, Sean Wade with a concussion. And then these players are questionable. Damian Harris with the ribs, Nick Folk with a knee, Justin Herron with an abdomen, Jonathan Jones with an ankle, Jalen Mills with a hamstring, Ronnie Perkins with an ankle, Kyle Van Noy with a groin, and then J.J. Taylor with his groin injury. So yeah, you got the hot Cowboys offense traveling up there to face a New England defense. Now, typically, I would could definitely say like what happened last week with that Patriots defense. The more I think about it, it's like how did the Patriots defense like completely like gave out everything to kind of somewhat keep the Bucks offense in track, and then they let the Texans and Davis Mills dice them up. So like I don't know how to feel about this Patriots defense because it's like, oh yeah, I mean Davis Mills lit up the Patriots defense last week. That means Dak and his crew are gonna light them up. But can't you just see all of a sudden like Dak's kind of having an up and down day? Bill Belichick showing his genius. Like it's been a very unpredictable year for the Patriots, especially on their defensive side of the ball. But with that being said, I mean, Dak's playing really good football right now, so I think he's going to continue that. I think we can see a good game out of Mari, good game out of CD. Dalton Schultz has stepped up over the last couple of weeks, and I can see them getting the ground game going. So I think they're going to be able to put up some touchdown drives. So I think that I could see them scoring 3+ touchdowns against the Patriots defense. And then you flip sides with the ball. I think the biggest issue with the Patriots this year has been that offense. There's nothing really that's been a major threat to another team. I mean, at times they've gotten the rushing game going with Damian Harris, but he's kind of been in and out of the lineup with injuries. He's questionable to play this week, so we'll even have to see if he's active. And then on top of that, Mac Jones is just not going to scare a defense because he doesn't really push the ball down the field. So they're going to be able to kind of sit back and then like keep everything underneath them. So I mean, unless he's playing as efficient as possible and he's dicing up the defense in the short to intermediate range where he's marching down the field and they're able to keep Dak on the sideline and finish drives with touchdowns. I mean, I just kind of see the Patriots offense struggling to keep up with the Cowboys offense in the game. Maybe Bill Belichick coach, that's always going to be a factor, right? Maybe Bill Belichick, this out coaches Mike McCarthy, but I think talent oversees that tomorrow. I think the Cowboys find a way to win. They win like a 28-21 win tomorrow against New England. And then I'm going to go ahead and keep it moving. We got the Raiders traveling out to Denver to face the Broncos. This is the last 4 p.m. game. I'm covering as far as injury report on the Raiders side, both their interior defensive linemen are out. Jonathan Hankins with a hip and Quentin Jefferson with a back. On Denver side, Mike Ford is out with his knee injury, and then these 3 players are questionable. Melvin Gordon with a hip, Kareem Jackson with a back, and then Aaron Patrick with his ankle injury. And then, so with this matchup here, it's man, I honestly don't know how, okay, let me just try to take, it's going to be hard. I just don't see how the Raiders win. I'm going to go ahead, actually, why don't I just go ahead and get this out? I just don't see how they win. I could see, everybody's making the argument, we've seen teams be galvanized by a coach. Usually it's when a coach gets fired, right? Not when a coach has gotten, caught showing his true character. And it's just it is so early in the season, and they are coming off those losses, but it's still they still had things going for them where they can make a push for the playoffs. And then it's your leader, the guy that was supposed to be your head coach of the franchise for guaranteed the next 6 years, is now gone. And the entire future of this franchise is in doubt right now. How can a team get galvanized? If their new interim coach gets it done, more power to him. That shows a great credit that he's an amazing coach. But it's just I'm trying to think me as a player, right? Yeah, you want to put on good tape. You got to keep your career going. But then it's how? I'm sorry. It's just how? I'm going to do my best to do a good preview for you guys. So The Raiders defense, they have, they played a lot better this year. Gus Bradley has definitely turned around this unit. They are going against this Broncos offense, which has been, they've been up and down, but with Jonathan Hankins and Quentin Jefferson being out, those guys have been working in the interior of the line. I could see a Javonte Williams, and assuming Melvin Gordon plays with his questionable hip, I can see them getting the rushing attack going. And when they get that rushing attack going, I think that's going to open up play action for Teddy Bridgewater. So that's going to allow Noah Fant to kind of work the middle of the defense. I could see Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton working on the outside, taking advantage of play action plays. I think they're going to be able to move the ball up and down. Not up and down, but I think they're going to put themselves in scoring position. But I think the Raiders defense can step up at times, force them to field goals. But I think the Broncos are going to be able to put together 2 to 3 touchdown drives tomorrow. And then you flip sides of the ball. This is where I think the Raiders struggle because kind of how I mentioned about Cliff Kingsbury, Jonathan Gruden was hands-on with this offense. So I think the chemistry within the offensive play calling is going to be very off tomorrow. The Broncos defense with Von Miller, I think he's going to be able to get after Derek Carr. And we all know when Derek Carr is underneath pressure, that's when he struggles. So I think Derek Carr is going to have a rough afternoon. I think they're going to be able to pick him off at least 1 or 2 times. And I think this Raiders offense is just going to stall. I think they're going to be very clunky tomorrow because of the lack of chemistry with the play calling. And I think they're just not going to put together that many scoring drives. So I think the Broncos do win. They win like a 24-14 win. I'll say 24-17 win. Maybe the Raiders do somewhat keep it close, but man, I just think that the whole Gruden situation completely derails any momentum that this team had going in the first quarter of the season. Now we're going to move into the Sunday night matchup. The Seahawks are traveling out to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. It came out last night. Well, this was expected with Russell Wilson. He's been placed on IR, but they also placed their starting running back Chris Carson on IR, so that means those guys are out for the minimum of the next 3 games. And then Cedric Ogbuye is out with his biceps and chest. On the Steelers side, they did place Juju Smith-Schuster on IR this week. It sounds like the kid's season is completely done this year. And then Carlos Davis is out with a knee. So the Steelers are actually relatively healthy heading into this matchup compared to the Seahawks. The Steelers offense kind of got things going, especially with Najee Harris last week, which was very impressive because that Broncos defense has been somewhat stout. I guess the rushing attack, the Seahawks defense, you can basically kind of been able to do what you wanted to so far for the majority of the year. So I think we could see the Najee Harris breakout game from last week continue into this matchup. I think they're going to lean on him, get that rushing attack going early so that can take the pressure off Big Ben. And then when they are ready to hit him with the play action, I think that's going to be effective against the Seahawks defense. Their secondary has struggled to stop the pass, so I think Deontay Johnson's going to have a good game. I think we're going to see a good game out of Chase Edmonds. I think we're going to see somebody like Pat Freiermuth have a good game. I think I could see the kid going over 75 yards and grabbing a touchdown or 2 against the Seahawks defense. I think we're going to have a good. I think the Steelers team is going to, they're going to get themselves to 3-3, and we're going to have, how, like I mentioned earlier, the media likes to flip flop because that's how they are. They can't be patient with teams, and I think we're going to see the Steelers put together a strong performance on offense tomorrow night. And then you flip sides of the ball, and you got Geno Smith back there with Alex Collins. Like, Geno was, he looked like he was going to make something out of, nothing last week and maybe get the upset over the Rams, and it just didn't happen. And he's going against the Steelers defense, which hasn't been great, but they're probably the healthiest they have been in the last month. So I think they're going to be able to harass Geno. I think TJ Watt's going to get on him a couple times, maybe force an early throw, which leads to a turnover, maybe a Minka Fitzpatrick pick 6, or he's at least going to probably force a fumble off of Geno. I just, when you lose the magic of Russell Wilson, you lose the belief of the Seahawks, like going into Pittsburgh and winning this game, right? So maybe they score 2 or maybe a couple touchdowns in this game, but I think it'll be a couple 2 touchdowns too late. I really do think the Steelers are going to have their way with them on defense. So I think the Steelers are going to handle their business on Sunday night. I think they win like a 28-17 win over the Seahawks. And then we got the Monday night matchup. We got the Bills traveling to Tennessee to face the Titans. Taking a look at the injury report, again, these are not the final injury reports. That will come out at some point today. But with the Bills, as of yesterday, these two players have not practiced. Tywan Jones with a hamstring and Ron Neal with an illness. And then Matt Milano has been limited with his hamstring. On the Titans side, they have 4 players that haven't practiced. Christian Fulton with a hamstring, which is not good news because he's their best cornerback right now. Monty Rice with a groin, Jeremy McNichols with an ankle, and then Bud Dupree with a knee. And then these 2 players have been limited. Roger Saffold with a shoulder, as well as Kari Blasingame with his shoulder. So if anybody remembers, this is one thing when I've been thinking about this matchup. Like, do you guys remember when the Titans had the breakout last year, like the COVID breakout? A lot of players were missing. They had to push this Bills-Titans game to a Tuesday night matchup. And everybody thought the Bills were going to walk all over the Titans because the Titans were so hurt by COVID. And then the Titans actually blew out the Bills, like, big time. If anybody remembers, Derrick Henry sent Josh Norman flying on a stiff arm. That has to be on the back of the Bills' mind, right? Like, they were completely embarrassed on national TV against a team that was decimated by COVID. So I think they're going to be highly motivated to make things right from that loss. And then you're going against the Titans defense, which is very suspect, especially against the passing attack. I think Josh Allen's going to throw over 300 yards, 3+ touchdowns against this defense. I think they're going to move the ball up and down all the field all night, just similar to how they did against the Chiefs defense last week. And they're going to continue to be as impressive as they have been over the last 4 games. So I expect a big game out of that Bills offense. And then you flip sides of the ball. I think, though, like, with that being said, I don't think they're going to blow out the Titans by no means. Yes, the Bills defense has been outstanding, like unreal over the last 4 weeks. But I think the Titans, they're still going to have confidence of what they did last year to the Bills, and I think they can carry that into this matchup. I think you can see a good solid game out of Derrick Henry. Looks like Julio Jones is going to play. So they'll have Julio and AJ. So it'll be interesting to see how they defend those guys. And I can see AJ Brown and Julio Jones really stepping up their play and trying to make this a good matchup for the Titans. I think they're going to be fighting for the most of the game. And then what's going to happen is I think Josh Allen is going to kill them in the 4th quarter on some deep pass to like Emmanuel Sanders or Stephon Diggs and completely end the game. And any type of comeback for the for the Titans. So I do think the Bills find a way to win in the 4th quarter. They win like a 35 to 28 win for the Bills. So yeah, that is my preview for week 6. I hope you guys did enjoy it. As always, if you liked this video today, hit the like button. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. I would like to at least get 1 more subscriber this week. Other than that, as always, go to prospectencyclopedia.com to check that out. You can get, like I mentioned earlier, you get the entire PDF for only $15. You get individual team PDFs for $1. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend and enjoy all these matchups we got on tomorrow and Monday night. See you guys.